Welcome back to Square Off and Decision 2022. Arizona's Attorney General can play a large role in your life. The state's chief law enforcement officer protects you from ripoffs as the state's consumer watchdog, takes on corruption in politics or government, goes after big-time crooks. The state constitution also gives the Attorney General the leeway to decide what other legal missions the office should or shouldn't pursue. The two candidates on the November ballot are Democrat Kris Mayes, she was unopposed in her primary, and Republican Abe Hamedeh. He is the Trump-backed candidate who won the crowded GOP primary. Current Attorney General Mark Brnovich is termed out. Now, we invited both candidates to debate. Kris Mayes accepted. Abe Hamedeh's spokeswoman said a debate, quote, "doesn't work for us at this time, but we will be in touch in the future." So welcome, Kris Mayes, to Sunday Square Off and our one-on-one conversation.
Thanks, Ram. I'm happy to be here.
Your tweets have the hashtag lawyer for the people. You're also a Democratic candidate. So which people are you lawyer for?
Well, that hashtag, that slogan means I'm going to be the lawyer for all Arizonans. And I think that's what we've been missing over the last 8 years. We have had an attorney general and frankly my opponent who want to and have deeply politicized this office. And we need to get back to having a lawyer for the people, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, or a libertarian. This office should be about serving, protecting the people of Arizona, going after major crime. We know crime is on the rise in Arizona. We need an AG who's focused on it. We need to prosecute consumer fraud, elder abuse. We need to tackle our fentanyl crisis in the state. And we have got to have an attorney general who will uphold the rule of law and fight back when legislators talk about things like, wanting to overturn the popular vote and allow them to decide who wins presidential elections. That won't happen on my watch.
So there are some voters sizing you up right now who might say, okay, but will she stand up to the Biden administration? Can you think of anything the Biden administration has done, perhaps student loans, perhaps something else, student loan forgiveness, where you would stand up to them?
Yeah, sure, and I have in the past. I mean, I came out and said, I think on your show, Bram, that I did not believe the Biden administration should overturn or lift Title 42. I think we can all agree that that this administration and previous administrations have not gotten the border under control and is not doing enough to deal with the surge of immigration coming across our border. So you bet. I mean, I'm willing to take on the Democratic and Republican administrations.
Are you willing to sue? Excuse me, are you willing to sue the way the current AG has?
You know what, I think there are better ways to go about it first. We have to come together as Arizonans, whether you're a Republican elected official or a Democratic elected official, and try to tackle this problem. And I am ready to do what I can do as Attorney General. Number one, to push the federal government on the border to get the surge under control. Number two, to go after the fentanyl crisis. This is a real crisis. It's being smuggled through ports of entry, and it's being flown in from countries like China and India. We have got to have a concerted effort together to tackle these problems.
Be specific about that, because that's a very, very important issue. How specifically would you go after fentanyl traffickers?
Well, number one, I think we have got to modernize these ports of entry. It is literally, for the most part, being trafficked through the ports of entry, and we've got to work with both the federal government and, to the degree it's possible, go after state funding to modernize those ports of entry to attack fentanyl. I will put additional resources, Bram, as well, from the Attorney General's office on prosecuting fentanyl smuggling and fentanyl dealing in Arizona to the degree I absolutely can. And then I will go to the legislature and work with the governor to get additional funding. Look, Bram, we're sitting on a $5 billion surplus in Arizona. And yet, this administration and the current Attorney General have not gone after that money to tackle this fentanyl crisis that is killing our kids and tearing our families apart.
Is it just about money? Because what you've described are things that are happening to some extent.
Not enough, and it's not just about money.
And you know, a lot of folks point to a lot of people coming over the border.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is true. And again, the federal government needs to do a better job. And I will work with local law enforcement officials along the border to help give them the resources. You know, one of the first things I want to do to tackle both human smuggling, but also fentanyl smuggling, one of the first things I will do as Attorney General is form a task force that will bring law enforcement officers as well as prosecutors along the border and actually throughout the state of Arizona to try to tackle this problem. And my opponent has no plan for this that I can see.
You'll be leading an office full of prosecutors. You've never been a prosecutor yourself, correct?
That's correct. Yes. I mean,
is that a drawback, not having that experience?
No, because I have led a branch of Arizona government, and I have led prosecutors and lawyers, a division of lawyers at the Arizona Corporation Commissioner. As you know, I'm a former Arizona Corporation Commissioner. Look, this is a management job, and I will be managing the top and the biggest law office in the state of Arizona. And I did that as a corporation commissioner. I know how to manage, I know how to lead a division, I know how to lead an agency, and that's what this job is all about. There are amazing lawyers inside the Attorney General's office. They'll be going to court. I'm going to be responsible for recruiting great lawyers into the AG's office, leading those lawyers to go after the problems that are facing our state.
Let's talk about abortion rights. The Hobbs decision looks like it's going to play a big role in this election, big role with voters' decision. A Pima County judge will decide no sooner than September 19th whether Arizona's Civil War-era abortion ban can take effect. The case is likely headed to the state Supreme Court, so could play it over several months. You've said there's a right to privacy in Arizona's Constitution that also protects reproductive rights. So, assuming the 158-year-old ban is in effect, how would you wield what you view as a privacy right to perhaps overturn that ban?
Here's my view, which is that, number one, it is outrageous that our current Attorney General is trying to re-implement a 1901 ban that really began in 1864, as you point out, that would put doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and others in prison for assisting with reproductive care, including abortion care. The vast majority of Arizonans do not want to see doctors put in prison, and I will not do it, Bram. I will not prosecute doctors and pharmacists in the state of Arizona for abortion care, and it's because we have this express right to privacy in the Constitution, Article 2, Section 8, and what that means is when I raise my right hand, when I take office in January, it will be my job to uphold the highest law in the land. That is the Arizona Constitution. Ultimately, yes, the Supreme Court of Arizona is going to have to decide this issue. And the Supreme Court is going to have to determine whether my view on this issue, that we should be protecting doctors, women, and that there should be a privacy right. This decision should be between a woman and her doctor and her family, not the government.
And yet, you know, it seems that we hear prosecutors saying, I will not prosecute. It seems the reality is what abortion provider would actually perform an abortion, given that there's no insurance for it, you might end up in jail. It's an enormous risk. So again, realistically, it sounds like you're letting the Arizona Supreme Court settle this, and then the state will have to live with it. The United States Supreme Court has already weighed in on it.
Yeah, I don't think we are not going to have to live with it. I am hoping that having an Attorney General who is saying very forcefully, we will not prosecute doctors, women, nurses, pharmacists for abortion, will allow reproductive care to go forward. But you have a point. The very threat of Mark Brnovich reinstituting this insane 1901 law has seized up reproductive care in Arizona. And women in Arizona are already having to flee to New Mexico, California, Nevada, Colorado for reproductive care. And Bram, I think we are only days or possibly weeks away from women dying in Arizona because doctors are having to make terrible choices about whether to treat women. Look, women who have ectopic pregnancies, miscarriages that require abortion service. You know, doctors are having to make terrible decisions, impossible decisions between providing the care that women need or potentially being prosecuted by a Republican Attorney General in Mark Brnovich. It's insane, and I'm hoping that we can put a stop to that. I know we can put a stop to that when I'm Attorney General.
Attorney General Mark Brnovich is pursuing the death penalty as his term ends. He's right now in the process of performing or getting the court's agreement to execute a third death row inmate before he leaves office. Will you enforce the death penalty as Attorney General?
Bram, the death penalty is the law of Arizona, and it will be my job to enforce the law. And that includes the death penalty. But here's what I want to say about the situation, and in particular, Mark Brnovich's leadership on this issue and the Department of Corrections, which is the state of Arizona under their leadership and the current governor has botched several executions already. What we need to do, and what I will do when I'm Attorney General, is we will go in and find out what in the world is going on inside the Department of Corrections that they have now botched several executions, and that they wanted to buy, for instance, Zyklon B, which is the gas that was used by the Nazis in World War II to carry this out. We have got to have a better understanding before we move forward with future executions and with the death penalty of what is happening and inside both DOC and the AG's office that this has gone so awry.
So are you saying you would put a pause on executions until you learn more about how they're performed?
I'm saying we can't botch executions. I mean, it's not fair to the victims and it's not fair to justice. And so what I'm saying is, no, I will uphold the death penalty in Arizona, but we have to get it right. We cannot have the kinds of mismanagement and misfeasance that's going on inside state government in any area, including this one.
I do want to end with water. Huge issue for our state. It looks like you want to play a role in the battle over water rights that's now engaged and will likely expand in coming months. What is your role? What would you do? And what do you bring to that as a former corporation commissioner who dealt with utilities, water utilities?
Yeah. I fully intend to play a very active role in fighting for Arizona's water rights and fighting for our water. We are in a severely difficult and crisis situation with regard to water. Bram, we are within 100 feet or close to it of being at dead pool status at Lake Mead. And that means we are going to have serious water cutbacks. We already learned 21%. I'll give you an example of what I'm going to do. I just did a press conference on this absolutely unacceptable deal done by the State Land Department with a Saudi-owned corporation in which we are giving our water away to Saudi Arabia so that they can farm alfalfa and send it back to Saudi Arabia for their cows. That is, I think, a likely violation of the Arizona Gift Clause, maybe one other provision of the Arizona Constitution. We cannot, as a state, afford to be giving Arizona's water away for free, and I will examine that, I'll investigate it, and we'll put a stop to it going forward.
Stop by suing the land department, which leases the land?
Look, my job will be advising the state land department that this is probably unconstitutional. And you know, that obviously is going to be a serious conversation that we will have with them. You know, we've got to, number one, have an Auditor General's report on what's happening. Most Arizonans find it, I think, shocking that our government is giving our water away for free. And what is even worse, Bram, is that the money that would come from leasing that water, if we were actually leasing it, is supposed to go to our schools. So they are essentially giving our water away to Saudi Arabia, and that money was supposed to go to our schools. That's got to come to an end.
And we have to end it there. Kris Mayes, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks,
Best of
Bram.
luck.
It's good to be here.